Imagine it's a special date, your wedding anniversary, maybe a promotion at work that you fought years to get. You decide to take your wife out for dinner. The restaurant is beautiful, the lighting is low, the environment smells like success. The waiter, looking elegant, hands you the heavy leather menu. What is the first thing your eyes do? I want you to be brutally honest with me right now because I have sat in that chair and I know exactly what you feel. Your eyes do not go to the description of the dishes. They do not look for what will give you pleasure or what will mark that night in your wife's memory. They go straight, like a magnet guided by fear, to the column on the right. The price. You read the menu like an Arab from right to left. You see the filet mignon with truffle sauce that you really want to eat. Your mouth waters just reading the description. It costs $45. You work hard, you support the household, you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You deserve that piece of meat. But then, that jailer's voice inside your head, that ancient voice that sounds just like your father or your grandfather, screams, "No! 45 is a robbery. That is a week's worth of lunch money. You cannot do that." So you feel a physical tightness in your chest. Your shoulder drops. You lower your eyes, defeated, and you order the chicken with salad for $28. "I'll have the chicken, please," you say, with a voice a little quieter than normal. You saved $17. Congratulations. You won the battle against the menu. But at what cost? You spend the next hour eating a dry chicken that you could have made at home in your air fryer, looking at the plate at the table next to you with silent envy, feeling small, castrated, and miserable in your own celebration. You ruined the experience, the memory, and the energy of the night for $17. You signaled to your wife, and worse, to your own subconscious, that you are not worth those extra $17. Meanwhile, outside in the dark parking lot, your financed car depreciated $30 just while you were eating that sad chicken. Your house, with that 30-year mortgage and compound interest the bank pushed on you, charged you $50 in interest just during dessert. You are bleeding thousands of dollars on the big structural things in your life without even noticing, but you are putting a Band-Aid on the small things that bring joy. This is not being economical. This is not being financially responsible. This is what I call scarcity psychosis. It is a silent disease that kills your wealth potential. And I know exactly what it's like because I lived like that for years. I was the guy who drove further to save pennies. I was the guy who didn't tip. I was the smart guy who finished the month stressed and without real progress. I am Buck. And today I am going to help you rip that scarcity chip out of your head with a pair of pliers. I'm going to teach you to stop counting coins while losing millions, and I'm going to show you how my friends who built real empires, the generals I eat lunch with today, think about the brutal difference between price and value. And at the end, I'm going to give you the exact tool I used to climb out of that hole. The first thing we need to establish is that being cheap is not a virtue. It is an emotional reaction based on fear. Being prosperous, being sovereign, is a strategic reaction based on value. Until you understand this visceral difference, you will remain trapped in the rat race, no matter how much you cut out the coffee or reuse the paper filter. Let's take the most classic example of dumb economy that I see smart men committing every day. The gas station. You are driving and you see two stations. Station A, on your route, sells gas at $3.89. Station B, which is a 20-minute detour on the other side of town, is selling at $3.79. 10 cents cheaper. Your scarcity brain lights up like a Christmas tree. Whoops, discount. The system won't get me today. I'm smart. I'm going there to save. And you drive 20 minutes to go and 20 to come back. You face traffic, you get stressed, but you get there, fill the tank, and feel like the Wolf of Wall Street. You won. Let's do the real math that your fear ignores and your ego hides. Your tank holds 15 gallons. 10 cents of savings times 15 gallons is $1.50. You saved $1.50, except you drove 40 minutes in total. Your car gets, let's say, 25 miles per gallon in stop-and-go city traffic. You burned almost a gallon of gas just to go get the cheap gas. That gallon cost $3.79. So you spent $3.79 on fuel and 40 minutes of your life to save $1.50. The final balance? You paid $2.29 for the privilege of wasting time and wearing out your car. And it gets worse. Much worse. What is your hour worth? If you make $25 an hour at your job, you threw away more than $15 of your productive time or your rest time. You turned a theoretical savings of $1 into a real loss of almost $20. And you did it smiling, thinking you were a financial genius. I see this happening all the time because I was that guy. The cheap guy asks one question: how much does this cost right now? The sovereign guy asks another question: what is the return on my investment of time and money? If I had to drive 40 minutes to save $1, that means I am valuing my time at $1.50 an hour. Not even a child works for that amount. Why do you accept working for that amount for yourself? When you understand that your time is the only resource that doesn't renew, you can make more money, but you can't make more time. You stop selling it for pennies. Now, let's talk about the obsession that has infected the personal finance world, and that drives me crazy. The coffee. The coffee. The internet guru's favorite villain. How many times have you heard some expert in a cheap suit say that if you cut your daily latte, you will become a millionaire? Make it at home, save $5, invest at 12%, and in 40 years you will have $1 million. Look, mathematically, yes, you save. That is $1,800 a year. It's not nothing, but it's also not the generational wealth that will change your family's destiny. The problem is the focus. The person who is agonizing, suffering, depriving themselves of a coffee they like, and that gives them energy to work better, is usually the same person who has a $47,000 SUV in the garage with an $800 monthly payment they can barely afford. They are obsessed with the $5 latte while bleeding money on car depreciation, expensive insurance, premium gas, and credit card interest. They're bailing water out of the boat with a teaspoon while there is a hole in the hull the size of a cannonball. This is the cheap trap. Sweating the small stuff and ignoring the big stuff. It is tripping over $100 bills to pick up dimes on the floor. I have very successful friends. People who built solid fortunes, who are free. Do you know what they never discuss? The price of coffee. They discuss the price of the interest rate on debt. They discuss the opportunity cost of not investing in a new business. They focus on the big numbers. If you get your housing, your transportation, and your investments right, you can drink whatever coffee you want, eat whatever filet mignon you want, and you will still have money left over. And there is another hidden cost to being cheap that nobody tells you about, but that destroys your career: decision fatigue. Your brain has a battery. It's called cognitive bandwidth. You can only make a certain number of good decisions per day before your prefrontal cortex asks for a break. Every time you stand in the supermarket aisle comparing the price of toilet paper per square foot to save 30 cents, you are draining your brain's battery. You spend 15 minutes choosing the cheapest tomato sauce. You spend 20 minutes looking for a coupon on the internet that doesn't work. When the time comes to make a real decision, a $20,000 decision like negotiating your salary, choosing an investment, deciding your company's strategy, or having a difficult and necessary conversation with your boss, your brain is exhausted. It is fried because of the penny micro decisions. And then what do? You make the easy decision. You avoid conflict. You accept the lower salary. You leave the money in a savings account losing to inflation. Your 30-cent savings at the supermarket cost you a $10,000 promotion because you were too mentally exhausted to perform when it mattered. I have a rule that I pass on to my students, and that changed my life. If the purchase is less than $20 and you have money in the bank, do not think for more than 10 seconds. Buy what you want, buy what solves the problem, and move on. Save your mental power for the decisions that change the game. Your brain is too expensive an asset to be used as a change calculator. But let's go deeper. Let's talk about the most dangerous and suicidal form of being cheap. Being cheap with your own growth and your own capability. This is where the damage becomes irreversible. I see smart men, capable men, refuse to buy a $30 book or a $500 course that teaches a new and valuable skill. The excuse is always the same: it is too expensive for information. I won't pay for knowledge. I can learn for free on YouTube. So they spend 3 years pecking at random videos, learning wrong, without a method, wasting time, getting frustrated. Meanwhile, the guy with the investor mindset, the sovereign guy, pays the $500. He doesn't see it as an expense. He sees it as a shortcut. He learns the skill in a month. The next month, he is already earning $1,000 more with that skill. In a year, the cheap guy saved $500 and continues earning the same thing. The investor guy earned $12,000 more. In 5 years, the difference is a paid-off house. Cheap came out expensive. Cheap cost him his future. Cheap cost him his freedom. I clearly remember when I was younger and had a nagging toothache. I didn't want to spend $150 on a cleaning and a filling. I thought it was absurd to pay that to a dentist for half an hour of work. I brush well. It will pass, I told myself. 2 years later, that small cavity, which I ignored to be economical, became a root canal. $1,500. I still thought it was expensive. I put it off. I tried home remedies. It became an extraction and an implant, $4,000. And a lot of physical and emotional pain. My savings of $150 cost me $4,000, 2 teeth, and sleepless nights. This happens with the maintenance of your car. You don't change the oil and blow the engine. It happens with your health. It happens with your education. The cost of ignorance and negligence is always, invariably, infinitely higher than the price of prevention. The wealth mindset asks, what is the cost of not doing this? What is the cost of not fixing the car now and having it break down on the way to a job interview that would pay double? What is the cost of not buying that good suit and looking sloppy in the meeting with the $1 million client? Sometimes spending money is the only way to make money. You need to plant to harvest. The cheapskate tries to harvest without planting and ends up starving. And there is the social aspect. Your network. I learned this the hard way, sitting at tables where real money circulates. Successful people, those who can open doors for you with a phone call, they smell stinginess. They have a radar for scarcity. The cheap guy is the one who never buys a round of drinks. He is the one who splits the pizza bill down to the last penny and complains that he ate 1 slice less. He is the one who never tips. You think you are saving $20. What you are doing is buying a reputation of being poor in spirit. Nobody wants to do business with someone who counts coins. Nobody recommends the stingy guy for a director position or a partnership. If you are stingy with the waiter, you will be stingy with the client, with the partner, with the company. Strategic generosity is a high return investment. Buying lunch, giving a good and thoughtful gift, helping without asking for anything in return. This creates an emotional balance. I have closed 6-figure contracts that changed my life, simply because years earlier I treated someone well, paid for dinner, and was generous when I didn't have to be. That expense of $200 returned 200,000 times over. But Buck, how do I change this? I grew up hearing that I had to save everything. My mother saved margarine tubs. My father fought over leaving the lights on. I'm afraid of running out. I understand. Truly. I respect your history and your scars. The fear of scarcity is real, especially if you saw your parents struggle for money. It is a biological defense mechanism. Your brain is trying to protect you from hunger and cold. But what protected you in the past is trapping you now. You are no longer in the survival phase. You are, or should be, in the empire-building phase. And you do not build a skyscraper with the mindset of someone building a mud hut. You need to change your internal vocabulary. Words have programming power. People with a poverty mindset say, I can't afford this. It is a declaration of powerlessness. You are a victim of the world. The world is expensive and you are small. People with a sovereignty mindset say, I choose not to spend on this now because I am prioritizing something else. Or the magic question, how can I make it so I can pay for this? The question changes your brain's focus. Instead of closing the door and turning off the light, you look for a window, an opportunity, an extra income. I want to give you a framework, a tactical mental tool that I use every day. Before spending, ask 3 questions. If the answer is yes to any of them, it is not an expense, it is an investment. Will this save me significant time that I can use to produce or truly rest? Will this increase my capacity to earn money in the future? Will this prevent an expensive and painful problem down the road? If the answer is yes, and you have the money, buy it. Buy without guilt. Buy the fast laptop to work better. Buy the good mattress to avoid back pain. Pay the good accountant to avoid fines. This is playing offense. You cannot save your way to infinite wealth. There is a mathematical limit to how much you can cut. You can only cut until you reach 0. After that, you die. But there's no limit to how much you can earn. The wealth game is a game of expansion, not contraction. Now pay close attention because this is where most fail. I know talking is easy. Watching this video gives you momentary motivation. You think, that's it, Buck, I'm going to change. But tomorrow is Monday. The bill arrives, the boss yells, the tire goes flat, the fear hits, and your brain goes back to the old pattern. The habit of being cheap is like an addiction. You do it without thinking. It is automatic. You need more than motivation. You need a rehabilitation system. You need a military protocol. It took me 20 years to deprogram my poor mind and install the sovereign mind. I banged my head against the wall a lot. I lost a lot of money being cheap, but you don't need to take 20 years. I compiled everything I learned, all the tactics, all the mental exercises, all the practical actions I used and that I see millionaires use into a single field manual. I don't call it a book you read and forget on the shelf. I call it a combat tool. The name is The Order of the Day, 365 high-impact orders for financial sovereignty. Why that name? Because sovereignty is the opposite of slavery. And why orders? Because when you are lost in chaos, you don't need tips, you need clear orders. In this manual, I don't give you boring economic theories that put you to sleep. I give you daily missions, 1 per day, straight to the point, fun, brutal. Imagine waking up and having a clear mission. Order of the day, 14. Today you will identify an expense that saves you time and execute it without guilt to feel the power of buying your life back. Order of the day, 45. Today you will audit where you are being cheap with your health and book that appointment you are putting off. Order of the day, 102. Today you will perform an act of strategic generosity with someone who can change your game. These are 365 pills of financial rehabilitation. It is like having me, Buck, shouting in your ear every morning so you don't do stupid things, and so you act like the giant you were born to be. It is the manual I wish I had when I was eating that dry chicken in the restaurant, feeling like garbage, thinking I was saving money, but actually destroying my self-image. I use this content to train my students, and the transformation is scary. They stop walking with their heads down. They stop apologizing for spending. They start investing in themselves. And suddenly, income increases. Opportunities appear. It is not magic. It is a frequency shift. If you feel deep down that you are worth more than this life of counting coins, if you're tired of playing defense and want to start playing offense to build your empire and your freedom, the link to the manual. The order of the day is in the first pinned comment below. Do not look at the price of this manual as an expense. If you do that, you didn't understand anything from today's video and I failed you. Look at this as the first test of your new mindset. It is an investment in changing your mental operating system. The return on this is infinite. It is the key to your sell. I want to hear from you in the comments. What was the most expensive, dumb economy you ever made in your life? That time you bought cheap and it came out very expensive? Let's share these war stories to learn from each other. I read everything. If this video helped you see money differently, leave a like. This helps our message reach more people who need to break free from the scarcity matrix. Subscribe to the channel to keep receiving the tactical financial intelligence that school never gave you and that the system doesn't want you to have. Keep your numbers clear, your mind sharp, and your soul free. I am Buck. Get your order of the day. I'll see you in the trenches.